second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We have been given now to the next part of the agenda. We have been given 2 amendments to our agenda. One, change to the personnel report in F2, and the other is under new business. It's the addition of the board committee members to the Community Relations and Legislative Advocacy Committee. We had some board members volunteer to start that committee and get it going, and I wanted to get that on the vote. So those are the 2 amendments to the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent.
The amended agenda.
Move to approve the amended.
Thank you.
Amendment.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. That moves us to the second item on the agenda, B1, notice of closed meeting. The school board chair recommends that the school board approve a motion to convene a closed meeting to discuss the following. 1, as permitted by the Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A7 for consultation with legal counsel about the pending case John McClain versus Lynchburg City Schools and Lynchburg City School Board, because consultation in an open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the school board. Number 2, as permitted by the Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A7 for consultation with legal counsel about the pending case of Tawana Hancock versus Lynchburg City Schools and Lynchburg City School Board, because consultation in an open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the school board. And 3rd, as permitted by the Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A7, consultation with legal counsel about probable litigation by a former employee, because consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the school board.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion or question? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are now going to reconvene in room 206 for a closed meeting. glasses. I need a motion to reconvene in public meeting.
So moved.
First, second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
The board chair moves that the Lynchburg School Board certify that in the closed meeting just concluded, nothing was discussed except the matter or matters specifically identified in the motion to convene in a closed meeting and lawfully permitted to be so discussed under the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act cited in that motion. I recommend that we approve the certification of closed meeting by roll call vote. Dr. Brennan?
I agree.
Ms. Carter? Dr.
Yes.
Coleman? Yes. Dr. Nillis?
Yes.
Dr. Gupta? Okay. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This takes us to item C1, the 2019 Virginia School Board Association Student Art Contest winner, and we had 3 who placed, and we are here tonight to acknowledge the students and see their work. Dr. Edwards?
Absolutely. So we are extremely proud of our very talented students, and I should say patient too, because I believe they were here when we started at 5 o'clock. Our arts program is absolutely phenomenal, and as we go forward, it'll be something that you see I'm trying to develop and actually get make it even more outstanding than what it is. But these 3 very talented students entered artwork, and we do have recognition for their artwork, so I am going to call them forward. We have certificates. We actually have the artwork, which has, oh, the students have it. Okay, I was like, which was here? It's great artwork, so I'm going to call them forward, and we're going to have certificates for them, and just congratulate them and recognize their hard work. So our first one is from elementary school, Jaslyn Turner from T.C. Miller. And Jaslyn's art teacher is also another phenomenal art teacher, Ms. Shawn Lipson. Come on up as well. And this wonderful piece of art received 2nd place at our VSBA conference. So you got to turn around so the people in the back can also see and appreciate the artwork as well. So you can see how talented she is. That's going right in my office. Upstairs. So this is just a certificate from VSBA in recognition of, and I always like to get the picture with the children and then invite the parents up, guardians. Is Mom, Dad, anybody here with you? Come on. That's all right. The baby too. There you go. You should be very proud of that talent right there. So get up there and smile with her. Look at her. Oh. Let's get the family in there because we are a family here at Lynchburg City. We can get all 3 of them with us, so thank you. Jaslyn, don't go anywhere. At the end, we'll get a picture with everyone, all 3 of you. So you can sit for right now, but don't leave the building. That talent can't go yet. And then in the middle school division, again, another talented artist from Dunbar, Colton Mutter. Is Colton here?
Colton's not here, but the
teacher is here. Miss Rachel Shaw, come on up. So again, another wonderful piece of art. The beauty of my office is there are walls on every side, so that too can go in my office.
Thank you. What was really special about this painting is that it was painted by a kid who really was typically not a kid that you would identify with as being an art person. He started the class really not excited to be in art class, would rather be doing a million other different things. But when we finally got to this project, it just kind of clicked with him. And the painting technique and blending the colors and getting the leaves, to look like the trees. He really enjoyed it. So I was really glad that he
Show
won.
it this way so the camera can get it.
Okay.
Yes, that is just beautiful.
Isn't it beautiful?
I was super proud of this kid.
Lots of compliments.
Thank you.
Lots of compliments.
Oh, this is wonderful. Thank you.
And in our high school division, another fabulous piece of artwork done by Dylan Kane. Is Dylan here? But his teacher, Linda Harding, is here, and this is great because you get to see our phenomenal art teaching staff.
This is one of Dylan's pieces. They are all meticulous. He's very driven, and the hours that go into it, but the precision that he has is pretty remarkable, and it's consistent. He's in the AP class, so we're going to send his portfolio off in a couple weeks.
Hold it up so that the detail is just amazing.
Anyway, hey girl.
So what I'd like to do is have my one student, Jaslyn, come on up, and then the three art teachers come up and join us in the horseshoe here, semicircle. And Mr. Coleman, who is the behind-the-scenes master of getting all this together.
For behind the scenes, good evening. I wanted to take just a minute to thank the school board for supporting our art program. And the teachers that we have are phenomenal, as Dr. Edwards said. Unfortunately, we're losing a great teacher at the end of the year. And I thought this would be a good opportunity for us to thank Linda Harding, who's been at Sandusky and then at EC Glass for 30 years within Lynchburg City Schools. So thank you, Linda, for all you've done. And thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, if you guys can come back here and what did we do, stand up like last time? That's right.
We just kind of fill it in.
We fill in around you. Just make sure. There you go. Stand up tall. Get my big cross. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. It's a lot of fun to go to that regional meeting and look at the artwork from all over our region and to see the students, and we are always so well represented and receive so many nice comments about the quality of the work. They say they must be professionals. They know they're the students. So, all right. The next is portion of our agenda is public comments. In accordance with policy BDDH, public participation, the school board welcomes requests and comments as established in the guidelines within that policy. Individuals who wish to speak before the school board shall have an opportunity to do so at this time. Persons appearing before the school board will not be allowed to campaign for public office or promote private business ventures and should not use profanity or vulgar language, make comments about a public official or an employee that are not related to his or her official duties, engage in behavior that disrupts the meeting or intimidates others, or address the school board on issues that do not concern the services, policies, roles, and/or responsibilities of the school board. Individual speakers shall limit their comments to 3 minutes. A speaker representing a group shall limit his comments to 5 minutes. The representative shall identify the group at the beginning of his or her presentation. A group may have no more than one spokesperson. The total allotted time for public comment at school board meetings, 30 minutes. Public comments are reserved for the public to provide input. The board does not respond to comment, answer questions, or otherwise engage in discussion at this time. And our first speaker is Mr. Flood.
Thank you, school board members, to let me speak again about this ex-offenders volunteering. I passed out, I gave the clerk one of these. Basically, I'm just gonna go over it briefly. Y'all can read it whenever you get a chance. I think when I started this discussion about ex-offenders being able to volunteer, was back in 2014, and we came up with a couple decisions to amend it a different way along the way. One thing was 15 years, and then we went back and decided to do it for 5 years, and we got stuck on that. And y'all had made a decision, and then the next school board meeting, y'all came up with an insurance policy, and we got stuck right there. That's where we at today. And what I gathered from listening to, usually I get a letter after every school board meeting, after the school board meeting is over, indicating basic, how y'all felt about, what I talked about as far as dealing with ex-offenders. We done some research, Virginia organizers, and found out, a few things about the insurance policy that was claimed that they would not insure Lynchburg City Schools if they hired ex-offenders. And as y'all read through this, you can see that that's totally, this is an insurance company that do insure schools that have convictions that's nonviolent and not a burial crime, which is all of us will come to that decision. No one should be around no kids with murder, rape, sex offenders. That's understandable. But this policy right here, this insurance policy right here, and we have Stephanie Brand, member of the service of VACORP Insurance, Virginia Association, Canada Group Self-Insurance Risk Pool. That's an insurance company that do insure schools like in Charlottesville, Albemarle County, Henry County, and Danville, Harrisonburg, all in the state of Virginia. But Lynchburg City Schools is the only one seem like they got a problem to have ex-offenders volunteer with nonviolent crimes. And like I said, I can't understand why we just can't sit down and compromise or talk about it when some people want to do it, some people don't. And I haven't got an answer about why it happened when it was added to the rules that anybody with a felony can't volunteer. And I haven't got an answer back. What happened for y'all to do that? No one has answered me and really told me, basic, we just done it for what reason? Because ex-offenders, as far as I know, haven't had no problems when they volunteer in different schools. Not only Lynchburg, but other schools. So, only thing I can see, and I might be wrong, it could be, y'all, as far as y'all concerned, to a certain point, I can't read your minds, but when people come from being incarcerated, they're on the blacklist or they're being undercover blackballed. I don't understand why they can't. And until something changed, I'm gonna be here. I mean, I'm not going nowhere. I mean, at least something that we can compromise to help. And it's not about me today. It's about the people coming behind me that maybe made one mistake in their life and never had a conviction on their record. But they come home, they can't volunteer with their kids. They can't go on field trips because of that felony. Something's wrong with that picture. But I hope this right here at least have some kind of understanding. Once you read it, understand that you can get insurance. The ones that don't feel like you know, we don't want ex-offenders to volunteer, because I think it was like 8-1 to change it. Then one person all of a sudden came up with an insurance policy. For whatever reason, they couldn't find nothing else within 4 years. So let's see if we can find some in insurance. That didn't make no sense. You got 8 people voting to change the rules and amend it a different way, and one person stopped it. But something happened to him, or something happened to somebody that was an ex-offender or something. I don't know. But I hope that we can come to a decision, at least talk about it, more about this situation. And in conclusion, it is clear each school district can make decisions about whether or not to have volunteer policies. And whether policies may contain also VACORP to ensure for more than 75% of the school district in Virginia does not require schools, districts to have restriction policies that the Lynchburg City Schools currently use. Thank you.
Mr. Jones?
Good afternoon. I was here maybe 2 months ago trying to seek some information about the volunteer policy. I spoke with Ben Copeland, and I actually wanted to speak with Dr. Edwards, but I guess it was like a chain of command, and once he got finished, you know, there was no other avenue. So I came down to the school board meeting, voiced my concerns also, and I guess to my surprise, that didn't go anywhere either. And then it was a gentleman that I met outside of here with Virginia Organizing. He met with me and gave me a few pointers and all, but for the most part, I am a father who's trying to volunteer with my son. It's really important to me that I be in his life, on field trips, whatever. And I was just hoping that, you know, y'all would revisit this policy, but from what I'm hearing, it's not going anywhere. But it seemed like, well, I read an article in the, I guess it was the Wednesday's paper, and it was speaking about this. So it seems to me that this policy is gaining traction. And, you know, I appreciate Robert for going about it for 14 years. I mean, 2014, but me personally, I'm trying to be a part of my son's education and to volunteer with him. The whole group, yeah, that's cool also, but for the most part, I'm looking out for that one child, and that's mine. One morning I told him goodbye, and he was like, well, where you going? Because I wasn't dressed up in my workout uniform. I didn't have my work uniform on. I said, I'm going to court. What did you do? Before I had a chance to respond, what did you do? I'm like, son, I did nothing. I got jury duty. What message is society giving our little kids? So I stood at the front door, and the Spirit came over me, peace, be still. You can relate to that, can't you? And it said, take this opportunity to go back and explain to your son. I said, son, your dad is a good guy. I did nothing. He said, what is a juror? I said, it's me and a group of people that's going to determine the innocence or guilt of somebody else. And he went from 0 to 100, back down to 0 just that quick. He said, well, okay. I said, man, your job is to be the best 9-year-old you can be. My job is really be the best father I can be for you. I said, we both got a job, and we both gonna do it well. He understood. But society, something else. Hope y'all revisit this policy. Thank you.
Ms. Mosley?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm speaking on behalf of two mothers, Melissa Rose and Antoinette Mason, who are very distraught. They want to know they're ex-offenders and they're being denied to volunteer with their children. My question is to you is when this child comes to ask y'all why my parent can come on the trip with me, what would be your response? Versus us coming up here time after time, just because people made one bad mistake while they were young, shouldn't they already been convicted and served their time and be considered as whole again and be treated as a human? We as human make mistakes. You know, some of us get caught, some of us don't. But why should that neglect a parent from spending time with their child? A child grows quickly. Can you imagine not going on your child's field trips? Can you imagine not being there for your child's graduation? Can you imagine just not being there? And your child is one's child wondering, I see everybody else's mom dead with me. Why my parent is not allowed to come with me? Thank y'all. And I hope we can revisit this, get a meeting, because, you know, people have challenges in life. You know, just because they did something bad doesn't mean they're bad. So why should they be held and continue in labor? Why not sit down, go by case basis? Because as I'm saying in newspaper now, I can't really say, but we're seeing so much sex crimes with people already in school versus some of these people who have served their time and becoming whole. So my question is, get together when that child alone and comes to you and say, why my parent, my mother or dad cannot come with me on my trip? I would like to know what your answer would be to that child. Thank you.
All right, there are no more comments. We now move to the finance report. Mr. Beckles?
Good evening. The financial report that you have is for the 8 months ended February 2019. As far as our revenue is concerned, all of our revenues are on target and we are receiving them as expected. You will notice on page 9, I'm now providing what I call a forecast of our revenue. What I'm doing there is showing you from original budget to what we forecast, any additional revenue coming in. I show you where the additional revenue. So right now we have an additional revenue of $76,000 over what our original revenue budget was. And you'll get that now between now and the end of the year. And that keeps track of the additional revenue. There's one thing I would point out to you on the additional revenue for the Medicaid receipts. You'll see we have a budget of $350,000. That number swings widely. If I take the last 3 years average, it'll average out to $509,000. There are two things that it's beyond my control. One, when the money comes in. If it comes in before June 30th, it's in this current year which we can spend. If it comes in July 1, it's booked in the next year. That number's going to throw my forecast off. So I just want to bring everybody's attention to that now. It may come in higher. If it does, most times it comes in either in the middle of June or the end of June, which will be additional revenues. I just want to point that up front because I expect we can have that same problem. It caused us a problem last year, so I just want to bring that to your attention. I'm going to do my best to keep the appropriately, make sure we manage our budget, and our fund balance will be appropriate. I'll use that word. As far as our expenses are concerned, you'll notice there are no negative numbers on our budget. Everything is just within line what we expect it to be. I just would say right now we are looking at, we will have some additional funds at the end. Well, I won't say at the end, before the end. So we are doing a list for budget reallocation. That'll be the next thing I'll bring back to you. Other than that, as far as insurance goes, our medical insurance is still doing pretty good. It was a little bit higher last month, but within budget. We don't have any significant claims at this point that we can forecast that are coming in, so I expect that to continue that at the moment. Other than that, I have no significant items as far as revenue or expenses that I need to bring to your attention.
Questions? Comments? Dr. Brennan.
Just one question. I think it's still showing that the health care, the insurance reserve does not have any funds in it, but I thought we did, or I know we did, take some money that was going to go into the health care reserves.
1.5 million went from last year's fund balance toward the health reserve.
Mm-hmm. So does that show up now on our expense sheet that?
No, you wouldn't see that on this sheet.
Okay.
It's on the books now at the city. You'll never see the reserve. The health reserve, the textbooks reserve, our maintenance reserve, that's not in our books. That's over at the city.
Okay. So the line item I think that we have on here that says healthcare reserve, that's not an item that we see a number in. Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Coleman and Ms. Carter.
Mr. Beckles, first of all, I want to thank you, as has already been mentioned about the superintendent, for your fine presentation at council and your depth of knowledge pertaining to what is going on with our resources. And so we just wanted to say that publicly. You may or may not be able to answer this question, but just for general knowledge, who is our insurance carrier?
Are you talking about general liability insurance?
Mm-hmm. Any of them?
General liability is Liberty Mutual.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Carter.
Mr. Beckles, if you
will take the time to explain why we have a health reserve and how it benefits the employees.
Okay.
And you also, just excuse me, but you also cited that you know where the surplus comes from that we have in our budget each year that the city council talks to us about.
If you notice, every month I let you know where our health claims are, whether we're above budget or lower than budget. One of the reasons I do that is, if you remember 2-3 years ago, we exceeded our budget for health claims by $2.1 million. Health claims are one of those items that it's unpredictable. Sometimes it goes high, sometimes it goes low. The only way to regularize, well, let me put it this way. If the claims go greater than budget, we have two choices. We can either increase the premiums that either the board pays or the employees pay. I know in the past, because we wasn't able to give raises, the school board was hesitant on raising the premiums that employees pay because it ended up being really a deduction in take-home pay. So we have a reserve to help in the case that the claims go up. We don't have to increase the rate either to the school board or the employees. We can take those good years when the claims were lower than budget, to kind of have a savings account, so to speak. If you really want to look at the health reserve, it's a savings account. So when you have good years, you put some aside for the bad years. So when the bad years occur, you could draw from the savings account, the health reserve, and you don't have to increase the rate that the employer or the employees pay. So that was the whole reason for having the reserve. It allows you to forego increasing the rate to the employees or the employer when the expenses, the claims exceed the budget. We could do away with the reserve. If we do away with the reserve, then in the event that the claims exceed the budget, the only remedy you have at that point is increase the premiums to the employees and or the board. So the reserve is to help cushion those years when the health claims exceed the budget amount.
Thank you.
Dr. Gupta.
Correct me if I'm wrong, reserve is like a hedge against the risk. You're basically covering the risk. People ask for why don't you use for salary? It's basically once you use for salary, the money is gone.
It's gone.
It's a fixed cost.
It is a fixed cost. About 4 years ago, we reduced the budget for the medical claims by $1.5 million. The year after we moved the money, the claims went through the roof. Can we forecast that? No. So yeah, once you move that, it's gone. So if the next time that we have to replenish that, now we have to come back and it's going to be a budget increase that you have to approve. I think Mr. Pearl was correct. It is a management of risk. Like I said, my thing is to be more conservative than risky. Yeah, we could be a little bit more risky, but you do suffer the consequences of the downside.
Dr. Gupta?
What I will recommend is maybe for the Finance Committee, we can look at the trends for the last 10 years and have sort of an actuarial analysis of the potential future risk and see if there is any flexibility in that funding we can use and have.
I think
more
once we
detailed
get that reserved about $2.5 million, that will relieve a lot of pressure. But that's about 25% of your claims. So in the event we do explode,
You're covered.
we're covered. And then we could, but again, it's up to what the board wants to do with it, or the finance committee, whatever. Whatever level of risk you're satisfied with, we could put it to that number.
Do our insurance company provide us some sort of an actuarial consult if you want it for risk?
The insurance does. I will just let you know if their estimate is always higher than what we budget for. What I do is, and I don't blame them, because if they're wrong, we can point finger at them. You give me this number. What I do is I take their number that they gave us, I redo it, and then I work with the consultant. We have a benefits consultant that the city and the schools share. I would go over the numbers with him again to look at it to see theirs is a little bit high, ours is a little bit lower. Which one do you think is reasonable? So we do that, and they do give us a number. On the average, their number is about increase every year, about 8%. They've always come in with an increase. So yeah, they do give us the numbers, and we scrub it again.
I think it's also important for the board to realize that we're just now entering the second year of a new health insurance company. So the historical rates from that company don't exist. It would be with the previous one.
Dr. Brennan?
One of the questions, you're so good at helping us to understand this. Can you help me with the funds that we receive from the state? There are state funds and there are funds through the sales tax. Are they both based on average daily membership? How do those two differ as far as the funds from the state?
They come from two different pots of money. Okay. If you notice, when I tell you about the, particularly coming out of the entity, I always say the sales tax revenue is on budget. And then our basic, what they call basic aid state funding. If sales tax drop, then the money we're going to get from the sales tax revenue is going to be less. Our basic aid amount is going to stay basically constant. So it's two different pots that they take the money from. The sales tax is a little bit more, not flexible, is the word I'm looking for. It's more variable, that's the number I'm looking for, compared to the basic aid. But when you put the two together, it's not as significant. If the sales tax drop, when you put the two numbers together, it doesn't hit the whole funding as much as if it was just the basic aid piece. The basic aid piece is a major portion of the total funding that we get.
And the basic aid piece is tied into average daily membership, whereas the sales tax fluctuates with what the sales tax is to the state.
On the basic aid, we have funded $5,959 per ADM.
Great, thank you.
Dr. Gupta?
One last question. What I like to see is, in this, we saw a presentation where we're below neighboring counties in terms of average salaries. And this whole push is about 3%, 5%, but I have yet to see a number. What will it take us in terms of dollar amounts, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, to be us above the average compared to our neighboring counties. So if we are at 39, the average is 43, it's a $4,000 difference. You see what I'm saying? To lift everybody up, how much money will it take? I know it's impossible in the current budget, but
it could be a goal.
but that could be our goal, and that should the number I'd like to see, maybe in the finance committee or here for the public to see what will it take us to take our teachers above average. You know, all the discussion is about give me 3, give me 5, but it doesn't take you above the average.
That's a good point.
That's about 10%.
Yeah, but
Look
I
at
like,
the numbers there. I mean,
so
10
in
million?
terms of absolute dollar amount, how much will it be?
you better, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
that's the magnitude of what you're looking at.
Yeah, but, okay, we'll add that to the finance committee. I have a question that's not necessarily with this, but it is about a number that was thrown out at the city council at the presentation when I heard the number that we spend over $14,000 per student. And I went back through my records and it was right around $12,000. So I was wondering why 14 was presented in the last 3 years. I've heard 12, or around 12.
If my memory serves correct, he was calculating that based on, if I'm, wasn't the additional funding we were asking for? And how he came up with that number.
I think that number includes the debt service.
Debt service.
Yes, so it's like,
Because even with the additional.
yeah, I heard the number, but I didn't.
Even with it, but so the debt service is like what they took on for Heritage High School.
Yeah, but
So they've taken that building and broken it out to students, which
I don't know where he got his numbers from, but whatever he got to his total from, he just divided it by your anticipated ADM number.
Correct, that's what he
Okay.
did.
Okay. I've found it, gone back through notes, and it was around 12, which is more in line with what other school divisions are.
Correct, 'cause there's, I forget the page number in your budget book because I have a schedule that gives that.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Beckles. This now moves us to the consent. And the consent agenda includes school board meetings from February 28th, March 21st, student discipline meetings, March 5th, regular school board meeting, March 19th, work session, an amended personnel report, Lynchburg City School Board Regulation JNZR, student fees, fines, charges, and tuition. Is there a motion to approve the consent?
Move that the consent agenda be approved.
Thank you, Dr. Coleman. Second. Any questions, discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, now we go on to student representative comments, and thank you for being here and telling us all about what's going on at Heritage High School. Ms. Booker?
Yes.
Okay, so Heritage High, I don't think this is not the right one. Don't think this is the right one. That wasn't the right one.
That's the only one that I have from.
Okay, give me 1 second. I sent it. Very sorry. Give me 1 second. Shared it. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, so our football team, they skipped winter break and just went straight to volunteer for Habitat for Humanity. Many of our guys signed up for that, and they helped build houses. They do it every year, and this year they were able to go back. They're also already in the weight room preparing for another winning season. There we go. Okay, our Overcoming Adversity with Diversity Club attended Diversity Dialogue Day, where students from around Virginia discussed different topics involving the different class systems in their school, which is basically them discussing how diverse their school is and the different areas from where the students come from. Also, the football team participated in the Family Fun and Fit Night at Sandusky Elementary. They're always going to Sandusky Elementary to volunteer for the field day, their incentive days, and their family fun night. The guys had fun, and some of them even got, you know, mesmerized by the kids. It was hilarious. College bio students went to the Yep, they went there at Lynchburg General Hospital. Many of the students, they said they had a good time. Some of them were grossed out, but others had fun. Mr. Beatty and Ms. Lipscomb had the privilege of pinning the SRO, our SRO, Mr. Thompson, for his promotion. They were really happy about that, as you can see in the picture. Our Pioneer Theater's performance of Nevermore was sold out for all of their performances. In HD projects, Heritage High School was happy to have several of our students be able to place in the district competition for Natural History Day projects. They are on to the next level. Is that it? That is it. But one more thing. We are having our ring ceremony on Sunday, the 7th. It is at 6:30. It won't be long. I told Bradley he cannot talk between every ring passed out. So it will not be long at all. We will pass out rings, have fun. There will be a DJ, and just come and support the guys to get their rings and show how much they've done. The whole community is invited. No one's shut out. Even glass people, they're invited. Everyone's invited. So it's going to be a really fun time, and that is April the 7th, this upcoming Sunday at 6:30. Thank you.
Where is it?
It's at Heritage in the auditorium.
In the auditorium.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Coleman?
And can I just say to you, thank you for your commitment to what you are doing and what you're sharing with us, your ability to articulate and process information. Really value what you're doing.
All right, that now takes us to school board committee reports. Finance, Ms. Carter, is there anything to report?
No. Not
The next meeting is
It's April the 30th.
30th, okay.
At 2:45.
Governor's School Committee, Ms. Mason?
We meet tomorrow.
You meet tomorrow?
Yes.
We'll get a report next week then. There was no Laurel meeting. STEM Academy, Dr. Brennan?
STEM Academy did meet on March 26th, and as I think I mentioned at the last meeting, there's still an ongoing discussion about the number of spots that individual school districts have in the STEM Academy, and if they do not fill them, whether other schools, districts will step up and take them and pay for that spot. So that's being discussed. And the other discussion point is whether they would like to obviously expand the number of students at the STEM Academy. They currently have 50, 25 in both classes. They'd like to get to 55, and they could do that without adding teachers. And the question has come up with is whether once they go through the students who are interested from the public schools, would they consider allowing private school students to apply to the STEM Academy? So those are two ongoing discussions, and the final point is that we are going to see the final budget for the STEM Academy in the next meeting, It sounds like they probably are going to increase tuition to $5,900 for next year to help cover their expenses. And I'd like to thank Ms. Marie Yeager for being part of that conversation at those committees and helping with representing LCS at the STEM Academy. Thank you.
Thank you. Advisory committees.
Sure.
Dr. Edwards.
We had a couple committees to meet, so I'll ask Ms. Reeves, Ms. Brown, and I don't know if it's Janina Tish, if come up for special ed advisory committee. So Equity Task Force and School Health Advisory committees met on March 20th. And just a real quick blurb update.
Awesome. Good evening, everyone. Equity Task Force met on March 20th, and I personally want to say, and of course, collectively for the group, we appreciate the permission to have the Equity Task Force and to have conversations regarding equity and inclusiveness. At our March 20th meeting, I think many of the members expressed levels of frustration, and that's okay when you're trying to get work done. But I can tell you we left there with the emphasis on getting the work done. So much so that we have another meeting on tomorrow at 5:30. And at that meeting, we will have the subcommittee's disproportionality and diversity and inclusion report out so that we can develop some next steps with regard to the direction in which we're moving. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. School Health Advisory, Ms. Brown and I tag team that one.
Good afternoon, Board. The Health Advisory Committee met on March the 20th at 3:45 p.m. in the school boardroom. There were 10 committee members present. Information was shared about Revive/Narcan training that was completed by all of our clinic staff. As of today, Narcan is available in all of our secondary schools. Narcan is a medication designed to rapidly reverse opiate overdose. Results from the Central Health Community Survey were reviewed and used to identify factors that relate to our students and families. A discussion was held on the concerns around vaping and juuling. This discussion was tied into the March 6th Professional Development Day, where health and PE teachers met with Dr. Jay Salmon and a senior AP capstone student from GLASS to have a dialogue on juuling. The GLASS student is completing his research on the prevalence of electronic cigarettes, especially juuling with high school students. That day, the teachers suggested that one way to address the concerns is to help parents become more aware. There were discussions among the health advisory members about possibly partnering with community professionals and agencies to support prevention and education for students and parents. Lastly, the Health Advisory Committee received the results of the Youth Risk Behavior Survey prior to the March 20th meeting. The members spent time at the meeting discussing the results and developing a plan to present the information to the school board at the May 21st work session. The next advisory meeting will be May the 22nd.
Thank you. And Special Ed Advisory Committee met on March 26th.
And actually, we had to move it to March 28th. Is when it ended up meeting. We met at Heritage High School. There were 4 SEAC members as well as other members from the community that were there. The SEAC committee received the draft of the Special Education Annual Plan. They reviewed those documents. Those documents will be available on public comment starting tomorrow for a 2-week period of time. Copies will be available in the public library as well as here in the Special Education Department. SEAC also received an update on the school division's reading instruction, as well as a focus that we have on the Orton-Gillingham based techniques. SEAC also participated in some discussions related to special ed subcommittee that were initiated during community conversations. SEAC also continued to discuss their planning for the October 2019 disability awareness activities, and they look forward to planning the parent faculty members focused activities that they're going to do on that they're going to do in October. And then SEAC will meet again on April the 23rd at EC Glass.
Okay, that's it for advisories.
Questions, comments? A lot of good meetings.
Yes.
So I I guess just a clarification, the special ed plan is going to be available on the website. Is that what, did I catch that?
No,
It's a public library.
I thought there was something
I
on the
thought
website.
we had to.
The annual plan will be available, it's in a notebook that's available in the library as well as here in the special education department.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. That moves us now to unfinished business, and I think this is a first. We have no unfinished business. So, right on to section J, the strategic plan discussion.
We have two parts of our strategic plan. One involves the board and their goal statements. The other is just a quick update from the various groups that did the community conversations meetings part 2. And since I still have those folks here, why don't we do that? Because that's going to be a short update. I do believe the reading group met. The special ed, alternatives to suspension, chronic absenteeism, it's the same folks, and family and community engagement. And I do like for them to come up because one of the things I want you to recognize is that most of these meetings, if not all of them, are in the evenings. And my team is here many evenings meeting with the community. Sometimes we have 20, 30 folks. Sometimes we have 1. But it doesn't matter, they're here to meetings. So I challenge them to do this in like 2 minutes or less as a group, so to quickly just give an update.
All right. The chronic absenteeism committee met. There were no attendees for that meeting, so that meeting did not go on. In terms of, yes, we were there. We showed up, so we were ready, but no one showed, so the next day, on March 27th, we held the Alternative to Suspension meeting, and we had 4 participants show. And I stayed throughout that meeting, and on that agenda, just to be quick, we reviewed the first meeting conversation notes. I went over offense codes and educated the people, the community members on offense codes and how we use them in terms of referrals. We went over the discipline flow charts and gave them samples from schools that we currently use. And we went over the new discipline level system that's coming up from the new student code of conduct. I also gave them homework to do. And so they were going to look up the Model Guidance and Prevention Code of Student Code Policy and Alternatives to Suspension, because we're reviewing that for this coming school year to make changes to our new discipline matrices, discipline flow charts, and we're going to use that as a guide. Our next meeting will be April 24th at 5 p.m. at the Information Technology Center.
Go ahead. All right. I was pausing because with family and community engagement, everything that we're doing, especially with community conversations, is a part of what I get to do. And so on March 11th, we had 12 people attend. LaTanya Brown and Dr. Edwards facilitated that meeting as my mother was being hospitalized and I could not attend. Nonetheless, they did leave me some great notes, and everything points to one community. It is pulling everyone together to really find out where our resources exist, who wants to help us, and how it is we can pull them together to help us in a very effective manner. To that end, on Thursday, the Interfaith Outreach Association will be meeting with the faith-based community, and I'm excited to say that we have 3 schools represented who sent me information about their needs, and we are actually going to move forward with Perrymont Elementary School, Robert S. Payne Elementary School, and our Juvenile Detention Center to get members from the faith-based community partnered with those 3 sites to provide some reading support.
Okay, our reading group, of course, met at Heritage High School. We had a great turnout that evening. About 61 community members came out that night and gave us a lot of great input that we were able to look through, especially a lot related to early childhood resources for reading. Our first meeting was held on March 7th. We had 1 participant that night, and we did have some rich discussion with that one person. She teaches kindergarten also, so we got a lot of good information. Our next meeting is scheduled for May 16th at 6 p.m., so we're hoping to get a large crowd that night as well.
The special ed portion of the committee, we had 3 different subgroups that came out of that. 2 meetings were scheduled on each. Our 6th meeting, last group, is to meet on Thursday night, and we're going to finalize all of the recommendations and put those in consideration for the strategic plan. Of the 5 meetings that have been held, 2 of them did not have any members of the public show up. The others have been anywhere between 1 and 4 as part of that. So as soon as that part is finalized, we will have the final recommendations.
Thank you.
How are we advertising?
We have individual listservs. They send out emails. Cindy Babb advertises it. We cross-advertise within groups. When we first had a community conversation, we asked people to sign up and give us the contact information that best reaches them. But they're also open to anybody in the public who wants to come as well.
So if you're not on the listserv, then what happens?
Cindy Babb sends it out. She has a whole list of dates, and I think at each board meeting, although I didn't do it at this one, I give out all the dates of all the meetings so that folks know when the meetings are.
And she sends it out in like print form or?
She puts it on social media sometimes. She sends it out as an announcement. I have to check and see specifically which, that's the last one, that went out. So.
Any other questions? It's a lot of work. I would hope maybe we'll get.
Got asked, but is it like if you go to the homepage?
Is it listed?
Is it kind of like?
Some
of that stuff has to be sort of obvious. You can kind of drill down to it. But
so it has been set in a location where you had to know where to look for it. We are moving it up to the top level, but we have to balance that against the other important things.
There's a lot of there's a lot.
It has popped up on the 4 or 5 that show on the top. It's just not there all the time.
So like maybe a banner that could run across that. Just another helpful suggestion.
Yeah, we'll have to get with have Cindy and Scott take a look at what they could do.
Thank you. That'd be great. Yes.
If I could just add to, I think the superintendent, as it relates to the board, does an excellent job of in the goalpost indicating the community conversation subgroup meetings. What would be helpful to me is alongside of that, and I know Denise has enough work, because I really regret not being at the FACE meeting because I would have been there, so that's on me. But if somehow there could be some way, at least for the board, because I think that these meetings are critically important in my personal opinion, and also where that meeting is going to be held, because even here I'm not sure if I'm clear on the venue of where it would be. And I just would like to appeal to the board that we would, we were present at the big meeting, and the real work is in these subgroups.
And we've even talked about having a calendar where things are listed daily, that you can go to one place, one calendar, and get events, not just but for school information as well. I know that takes time, but. All right, the strategic plan goal statements. We had suggestions from 3 people submitted, and on fiscal responsibility management, the number 2, I tried to put together, and I want to correct what I wrote because it's not written very well. Suggestion 2, I changed it to LCS will be an accountable, transparent system, manage our resources effectively, and allocate wisely to achieve success for LCS students. And so are we now supposed to go through these and pick one?
Yes, and whatever you guys decide, we'll follow suit with the objectives underneath if you want to have some discussion amongst your group as to what is the board's pleasure.
All right. Under the first one, student growth, development, and success, were 3 goals, suggestions put forth. Does anyone have a preference or a combination or a rewrite? The first one is all students will be challenged and actively engaged to a variety of academic pathways that will result a successful plan for postgraduate education, career training, or military training. All Lynchburg City schools will be accredited and the achievement gap will be eliminated. The second one, every student receives or will receive a challenging and rigorous education in an equitable environment which ensures a successful life, college, and career. And the third one, LCS will raise the level of academic achievement for all students, intentionally close the achievement gaps, and graduate 100% of our students.
Like number 2.
Number 2. Bob.
I like all of them. I think they're great suggestions. I really like the idea of us saying something as a goal that we think we need to reach as compared to just saying this is what we like to do and see happen. But so the first one or the last one that actually says we're going to graduate 100% of our students, we're going to close the achievement gap, and really actually giving us a goal that we want to attain as compared to saying we want to be great, something we can measure ourselves against.
All right, so if you want it to, Bob, you're saying either 1 or number 2, 3?
I'm just saying that I think they're all good, but I would like to see whichever one we pick that we do set a goal that we have. For example, number 2 says we're going to, all Lynchburg City schools will be accredited and the achievement gap will be eliminated. That may be too difficult for us to reach. The last one says intentionally close the achievement gap and graduate 100% of our students. I love having that goal of this is what we want to do is graduate 100% of our students.
Sharon, you like number 2?
Yes.
James?
I would lean to number 2 because of the fact that whatever our profile for a graduate looks like, that student has to be ready with the hard and soft skills to get these jobs out here that they can't find anybody to fill the jobs because the schools are not producing kids to do it. So for me, this equitable environment which ensures a successful life, college, see, everybody's not going to go the route of college. Just ensure a successful life.
Number 1 says career training,
education, military. I don't know which sheet I'm on because I'm reading. Is this the same sheet?
That's right here. Right
Yeah,
here.
but what I'm saying is the way that reads, which ensures a successful life, college, and career. Is that what I'm reading?
Yes.
That suggests to me a successful life, college, and career. Everybody is not going to be dealing with college. Maybe I'm not reading this statement right.
Right, so which one?
I'm suggestion 2. Every student receives or will receive a challenging and rigorous education in an equitable environment which ensures a successful life, college, and career.
But then you're saying that not everybody's going to go to college.
The way that it seems like it's any of these 3, a successful life, a career. College may or may not be the path for a person. At the end of the day, all I'm trying to say, I like suggestion 2, I'm concerned about the wording of it, is at the end of the day, we need to produce a graduate that has the hard and soft skills to get these jobs in which the society is saying these jobs are not able to be filled because we're not producing students to fill them.
Okay, Dr. Gupta, do you have a preference?
You can have lofty goals, but the problem is, at the end of the day, you have to measure them.
Right.
So how will you measure these goals? Like Mayor Tweedy was saying, do we maintain a database of what our graduates are earning? So any goal we pick, we have to make sure that we have measurable objectives we are able to. So how do we measure successful life? What criteria? Are we going to measure it based on the salary they earn, or where they go? So all these things need to be looked at when you develop those goals.
And I understand that, but I'm also beginning to wonder, some of this may be surprising to some of you to hear me say this, but I don't know if the goal anymore is closing the achievement gap. The larger issue is with student growth, development, and success is not ended up producing somebody. Now, how you want to write it so it's measurable, I understand that. That's the end result.
Well, in the homework assignment that we had, there were a number of areas listed under each of those goals, and I assume that's where the measuring would take place, under those goals. This is the statement that where we want to go, and this is how we get there, and that's what we measure. That's my understanding from writing classroom goals.
Can you remind us who was on that sheet as far as just some of those goals? You don't have to read the whole 20 of them, but what are some of the objectives?
Pre-K and school readiness, reading, literacy initiatives, math initiatives, special education, STEM and arts, gifted education, equity, opportunity, and access, alternative education, Tier 2 and 3 supports for students, counseling services, mental health and behavioral expectations, anti-bullying programs, schools for innovation, college, career, and workplace readiness, character education, health and wellness, social, emotional, and learning focus, soft skills training, student voice and choice, reduce chronic absenteeism, increase graduation rates, mentoring, tutoring, and wraparound services, and review and update school board policies. So these would be the instruments that we would measure the goal.
And I don't want to talk all the time, but Madam Chair, see how it's college, comma, career, and workplace readiness. I like that because that gives you the full pathway.
So that would be where we would measure with what we're going to do. Charlita, I think I hope I'm explaining it. Charlita?
I tend to lean to suggestion number 3. You know, Dr. Gupta makes a good point that it does need to be measurable, and I think it would be very difficult and or time consuming to track graduates, to measure a successful life, that just might be taking on something more than
Dr.
we
Gupta?
have the staff to.
See, other thing is, if you go by number 1, you ask somebody what is our goal for student development. The more wordings you have, it's very difficult to recall that. So the goal should be very precise, specific, minimum number of words. So maybe we'll have the top-notch school district in the whole United States or Virginia. You know what I'm saying?
Wait a minute. Let me get to everybody.
Yes,
Dr. Nellis?
I guess my suggestion was more along the lines of just trying to facilitate the discussion and sort of let's pick a best suggestion and then let's have some additional homework and let's get the wording
Well,
right
that's
for
why I
that.
asked which one is your best one.
And I don't know if we just vote on each one or
No, just pick 1, 2, or 3. And then we can work on the wording.
But can I just say this before? Thank you, Dr. Nelson. Even if we graduate 100% of our students, and they graduated prepared to do absolutely nothing that is relevant going forward. I understand that. All I'm just saying, at the end of the day, there's got to be some substance to graduating and substance to all these other measures. And that is what I am concerned about, this student growth, development, and success piece. And so I guess at this point, I'm not prepared to tell you 1, 2, or 3.
All right, so we have 1 for suggestion 1. I'm trying to move this along too, but I want everybody to say what they think. It's 2 for suggestion 2 and 2 for suggestion 3. Dr. Nellis?
I'll go with suggestion. Okay. The other thing too is the way these are written, there's a little difference in style. You know, like suggestion 1 says all students, suggestion 2 and goal 2 says all staff. You know, then you have the other suggestions LCS will raise. So it just, you know, however we do, we need to make sure the style of each of the goals is,
right.
the wording's consistent. Okay. So I'm going to vote for suggestion 1.
So we're on goal number 1, right?
Yes.
Can I? Dr. Gupta.
I like number 1 to accept through a variety of academic pathways. Could we use this, replace the word with equitable there, you know, if we.
Okay, let's get a vote and then we can work on the wording of it.
So that way the word equitable is missing in number 1. And, you know, instead of variety, if we can, my English is my second language, but if you can include that word there, then A1 is my choice.
Bob, you want it number 1, Atul number 1, and Mike number 1. Sure. Right, so I will go for number 1 as well. So number 1 goes.
And in suggestion 1, would it read that will result in a successful plan?
We will work on that wording. Okay. We will take suggestions. Denise will put it out there, and then we can take suggestions about
Google Docs thing.
Yes. And if everybody would please do it this time, it would be very helpful so that we can have that discussion.
It's shared with each of you.
It's shared. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe somebody can show me how to share so I don't have to send it to you.
You know how to share, Ms. Martin.
Ask Denise. All right, number 2, personal growth, development, and success. Do you want to go? It's number 1 has the same language as the one up in
we can,
1.
We can fix that. But
okay.
I like number 2.
2.
Like 2, like number 2.
Yeah. I like number 2 as well.
I like number 2 too.
2.
Yes.
I would agree.
2.
Yep.
James?
It doesn't matter, James. You're outvoted.
I have not given my vote yet, James.
No, I tend to agree.
We'll have a chance to share the language. Suggestions.
2.
All right. Number 3. So number 2 has it. Number 1 under civic growth, development, success. Number 2 and personal growth, development, and success. 3 is fiscal responsibility and management.
1, but financially support instead of students, stakeholders, so that includes everybody because we got students, faculty, staff. You know.
Charlita?
I like number 1.
Okay. Mike?
Yeah.
1? Yeah. So number 1?
Yeah.
James?
I'm going to put 2.
I'm going to put 2 as well. All right. Family and community engagement.
2.
Sharon likes number 2. Bob?
I like 2 also.
Yeah, I think that's concise, 2.
I like 2 too.
Shirley?
Number 2.
Mike?
I like 3. I'm willing to work.
I like 3 as well. All right. So under goal 1, we have suggestion 1. Under goal 2, we have suggestion 2. Under goal 3, we have suggestion 1. And under goal 4, we have suggestion 2. We are all over the place. But we'll clean it up.
In 1, I would suggest just a shorter suggestion.
Just
for 1.
put it in the document.
Yes, concise.
Did we finally give you something to work with?
It's very interesting for me to sit here and not say anything, and I think my good teachers would say we call that productive struggle, when we allow the students to master their own task and own their own learning, which is what we just went through. To go to your question about measurement and measuring it would actually be the objectives that are under that. So there will be some things that we'll write that are in and around those items that are listed in your, I think it's the February 11th goal post, if you're wondering where that homework assignment is. It's your February 11th goal post.
Measurable and with timelines.
Yes, measurable, timelines, action items. And I think the thing that the board, and I tell my staff this too, is this is a 5-year plan and everything is not done in year 1.
It's taken us year 1 to
get to this area. Some of this stuff we've started working on, and we have to prioritize that. And you go back and forth because of the resources. Sometimes the resources dictate your focus is over here because you have to put a large amount of resources in it, and then you move and shift. But just to give you an example, and one of the things we're going to talk about tonight is pre-K and pre-K curriculum and things that we're doing to strengthen our pre-K program, which is already in the works. That would fall under both student growth and development because it talks about little babies, but it also talks about our staff in terms of training, new materials and curriculum, and then of course that there's a financial impact to that too. So.
Any other comments?
Yahoo.
All right. That takes us to new business, and the first is the capital improvement plan for Dearington Elementary School roof replacement. Dr. Copeland.
To stick with the way the last agenda item ended, At the last meeting, I brought you suggestion 1 for the Dearington Elementary roof project. What I failed to do was bring you suggestion 2. There was an alternate in the bid package to include the other portions of the roof around the admin building, around the admin portion of the building and the pitched portion of the building. The cost for that alternate was $85,100. It was my oversight by not including it in the initial request. Since the last meeting, the contracts and the documents and everything have been flowing. It's my recommendation that you approve the alternate for $85,100, and we will just amend that to the current contract that's in the works. And that will basically have the entire Dearington building with a roof that's been completed within the last, I think, 4 years. And that was the goal of why we developed the alternate. If we had enough money, we were going to go ahead and recommend to go forward through that. There is enough money to cover this alternate.
Okay. Questions? This is for action.
I move to approve.
Is there a second? Any questions?
I guess, again, just to emphasize to everybody, I mean, this goes through the normal procurement process, and, you know, the bids are pretty clear and slow bidder. So.
Thank you. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
The next, Lynchburg City School Board Instruction and Program Updates, Section 7, Student Policies and Regulations. This is this 122-page document.
So just for review, we are in the process of converting some of our policies from the old policy numerical system to the updated VSBA policies. And then once we get them all updated, we'll get on a 3 to 5 year schedule. So hopefully we'll not have 128 pages every board meeting. So, and the policy work group did meet, and 2 of our members of that instruction program policy work group are here. And any comments from the meeting that you want to just highlight?
Well, we met on February the 8th and March the 28th to review Section 7, Part 2 of the policy, well, Section 7, Part 2 that we're working on. And the biggest highlight that we are kind of might need to make another adjustment to is the policy JOZ, student records. We have a policy JO that we adopted this school year, and in that we refer to the Library of Virginia for records retention and disposition rules. And this policy dictates how we maintain records within the school division. So the one thing that we might bring back up before the next board meeting, we might add in another policy for clarity in terms of who the record of destructions person is that's assigned to Lynchburg City Schools, and add that name in to our policy at that time. And so we will bring that back before the next school board meeting to review.
Do you have any questions? And this is for information tonight and action at the May 7th. So after you finish reading this, if you have any questions, we direct them to Dr. Edwards.
Yeah, sure. I'll take it.
Thank you.
Going to the finance policy, I can see the amount of work required.
It's a huge amount of work.
We've been working on these policies.
And lots of
So
discussions.
thanks a lot.
So,
Thank you, for
you're
taking
welcome.
this work.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to K3, Secondary Social School Studies Textbook Adoption.
And we have Dr. Jordan up here to talk a little bit about that.
Good evening. I'm the relatively new instructional supervisor in CNI, so it's nice to get some face time with you. Every 7 years, you know that SOLs are revamped in Virginia. Social studies SOLs were revamped in 2008 and again revised in 2015. And would anyone like to take a guess at the copyright of most of our secondary social studies textbooks? One of the teachers, we're a little bit better than that. One of the teachers gave a really comical answer. He just wants books that are younger than his high school students, and I hope we can do that. With exception of AP courses and world geography, most of our textbooks have copyrights from 2003. That means that 9/11 is a tiny little excerpt in most of the textbooks that take us up to modern times. All secondary social studies teachers separately in February and then with their departments got together. We all met as a big group in March and talked about this, and believe it or not, they reached consensus before we had to do any sort of consensus building. It was amazing. So we bring to you an item for information. Administration, parents, community members have had the opportunity. All of these things are in the conference room downstairs if you would like to see these options. So we've completed the review process as outlined by the state of Virginia. These textbooks, if we purchase them right now, we would be purchasing them for a 7-year period from 2019-20 all the way through 2025-26. That sounds like a really long time in the future. They did look at all of the normal review protocol as far as instructional alignment, equity. Can you see someone that looks like you in these textbooks? Something else that we really, really want to focus on is how do these textbooks support literacy? There's a lot of conversation about students and reading in Lynchburg City. If we do not have resources in front of them that are current or in good condition, then we would be remiss. So I want us to really think about how social studies teachers can support literacy at the secondary level. You will see a number of publishers on that report if you look at the attachment. That is because they really were specific about what publishers they liked. And we had quite a menu of options to look at in secondary social studies. And if you know anything about this content versus English or math, it's very content-based and doesn't, one content doesn't build on the other. So 6th and 7th grade, which are both US histories, they will go with the same publisher, but 9th grade is a totally different publisher because it's a totally different content. So we went with exactly what the teachers wanted. And this is a very passionate group. Dr. Copeland walked in throughout this process, and they will fight very hard for what they want. You will notice that civics and government are not listed here. That's intentionally. Anytime a civics or government textbook goes into print, it's almost outdated as far as what current events are included. So we're going to explore some other options like Newsella, which is an electronic resource that updates as quickly as every 2 days. And for events that are really timely, that would be powerful for civics and government. So we're going to explore another option, but also want to give them a resource that would help support literacy at the secondary level. I appreciate your consideration. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to field those.
In this process?
Turn it over to Dr. Jordan. It was exactly what she's doing. But in terms of that, I set the standard and the goal in making sure that the critical thinking, the equity lenses are used with the textbooks. I do want to make sure that the people that have to use the resources, the staff, are heavily involved in the decision and that it's not a top-down decision because they are working with the children. They do make great decisions about age appropriateness, but also help Dr. Jordan get any additional supplementary resources that we may need that will help children who maybe that reading level is not, they're not quite there yet, but we're working to get there, but we still want them to access that content area.
Thank you. And Dr. Jordan, when you mention community members get an opportunity to look at the book, how many of those community members are employers or entrepreneurs of that nature?
Probably not many. The ones that I know of recently have been grandparents that reached out through the school website and asked about the textbook process. So I don't think many employers.
Well, thank you for what you do, and obviously the superintendent has confidence in you. I just would like going forward as we look at the development of our curriculum for our students going forward and the appropriate textbooks to support that curriculum, that we must make sure that every course that the kids are taking is connecting the dots to them being able to go forward in life and find their way successfully, however you measure that. And if we are not doing that, I would hope that, I'm sure we are doing that.
And I see that there's also electronic, so you are able to get both at one time?
Yes, ma'am. All of these students will have access to an electronic textbook. You will see that the 6th and 7th grade course, they will have class sets of their resources. Everyone else at the high school level wanted each student to be able to have a textbook, and we really relied on teacher input. Some teachers said we only want class sets. Some teachers together as a grade level or a content area said we want every single student to have an actual textbook that they can take home. But everybody will have access to an electronic textbook, and that, if you've ever seen one of those, you can change the Lexile level. So if a student has a lower reading level, or if you want to bump it up to where a student can have a much higher reading level, you can change the Lexile on those electronic textbooks. And we really, really listened and asked some hard questions. Dr. Copeland, I think, walked in when some of those hard questions were going on. Are you going to use this resource? Because there's no need in spending money if you are not going to use it. And one group was very adamant, if you do not get the 5 Ponds book, and 5 Ponds is a publisher, we will not use the other ones. They did not think it was appropriate. They did not think that it was culturally representative of students that we see in the division. So the teachers were very much a part of this decision.
We have a division goal, like by 2026 we'll have all digital books, because when they come to college, it's all digital nowadays, very few paper books. So they are trained from middle school, high school for the college, so be habitual of using digital.
Right. We're there now as we develop the strategic plan, and I'm kind of glancing at Amy over there. She's smiling because even on the table is who has a one-to-one device, and we're going with that. So those are the conversations that we're having as we develop our plan. Where do we want to be in 5 years? And then, of course, how does that fit with resources?
If I may interrupt you, I was shocked financially. It is not any cheaper to get just the electronic textbook. So even if every student will have electronic access, it is no cheaper for us to just purchase the electronic textbooks. And I don't know how that works in the publishing world, but print and electronic.
Many publishers, if you buy like all textbooks from them, they'll provide a free handheld device, and plus they reduce the price. But I think, as Dr. Copeland said, getting ready for them for the future, that digitization will be a step forward in that direction.
And we're exploring an option with Newsella that I'm excited, and IT is really a part of this process because we are exploring building a textbook that is unique to Lynchburg City with very current materials, but it is incredibly cutting edge in comparison to the electronic textbooks that most publishers have out right now.
I have 3. Dr. Nellis, no, go ahead. Sorry.
Could you explain the Newsella a little bit? I'm not familiar with it, and then especially in particular the alignment with the SOLs.
Okay. Newsella is a resource that has a lot of collaborators. For example, the Washington Post or the New York Times or even the Lynchburg News and Advance may be a collaborator with Newsella. A group of educators vets the information, and they also work to lexile the documents into various reading levels. That can take anywhere from 2 days for something as big as the New Zealand massacre to 2 or 3 weeks for other events. Newsella is very, very popular right now. We have 1 school in the division that pays for Newsella, and we are looking to expand that 6 through 12 next year. And just like Dr. Gupta said, this is the wave of the future. This is going to be what they do when they go to college, and definitely when they get to a one-to-one situation. So we want to expand our usage of some of these resources, and we're looking at one of the cutting-edge options for civics and government because those are so current.
So.
And how would they be aligned to instruction?
Well, that begs the question. They're basically compiling content in real time, and it's not like you're picking a textbook out that was structured around the SOLs that this, group of teachers decided, yes, this is what we want to use. You're, I guess, relying on Newsella to do the right thing.
Newsella itself is what you're describing. We would purchase a custom collection, so we would have to provide them our PAR guides and our unit guides, and they would build information based on those, and we would do a lot of back and forth work if we went with that option.
I have a question about Newsella.
Sure.
The students access it on their Chromebooks.
Yes, ma'am.
And they have to have internet capability to access it. And they can do that in school, but a lot of our students go home to places that do not have internet access. So what will happen to those students when they have assignments that they can't do?
I hope that these assignments would be classroom assignments, the same as if a student only has the electronic textbook access at home.
My concern is that we're looking at something that is good for students, but our students, many of our students, and we've heard this, go home to places where they don't have internet capability. We've talked at the city level about where can we find places for, whether it's in rec centers or churches or other places, but we don't have that yet, and that concerns me for the percentage of students that won't be able to access and have this capability because of the lack of.
Yeah. We've used Newsella when I was in New Jersey in various districts, and you face that concern that you may have some students that don't have access, internet access, or Wi-Fi or anything that they can't get to it. And school divisions have been able to provide students with hard copies of things in advance to take home, but you really
have to prepare for that.
Who
and we also have to be aware of the student embarrassment over not being able to do assignments the way other students can do it. I want to make sure that students can have a copy. I looked at those books this morning, and some of them are pretty heavy. So for students to load those books in backpacks and have to take them back and forth makes me worry about the weight of they're carrying on their back. So the plan is for them to have a book at home and a set in the classroom, so they don't have to take the books back and forth.
There are some that have class sets, so those would stay at school. For the ones that would take the book back and forth, they would leave those at home and they would use the electronic textbook in the classroom.
Okay. And the other thing is the reading level of some of those books. Do we have that information?
Yes, the publishers have that.
Is that available when we go to review it? Is that down there?
I can make sure that that's explicitly clear.
That is something that I think is helpful to see, that we're using this book at this level, but the reading level might be 2 or 3 levels above where we're using it.
Okay.
Dr. Coleman, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm looking forward to reviewing it. I know that the animal in front of us is the SOL, so I can appreciate Dr. Nellis's question about alignment. I'm also asking going forward, because an indicator of a student's ability and forward success is beyond an SOL score or a GPA. So I'm just asking the question, since SOLs are forever changing, and that the Board of Education is looking at, Virginia is now for learners and changing the whole thing. Again, with the book, did I hear you say 7 years? 7 years?
Yes.
What is when we talk about getting a textbook to align to current SOL standards, what does that, my questions are too many for tonight, so I'm prepared to just leave it alone for right now, but it's just, I didn't understand the critical nature of textbook adoption as I now understand it, and it is critical on a lot of fronts. Even certain students from certain environments, if pieces are worded a certain way or certain types of scenarios are presented to them, they can get it over someone in a different setting. And so it's just a lot that goes into this. And what I'm interested now at the center is what's best for the kid going forward over against our traditional standards of education as we have been doing them hitherto.
All right. Any other comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
All right. K4, Special Education Annual Plan. Hi, again.
It's me again. I'm Willis this evening. This is just the annual Special Education Annual Plan and application that goes in every year. Specifically to this plan, what you have copies of are the 611 and the 619 budget plans that go in. This is for information this evening. This will be on public comment as required and has been reviewed by SEAC, and there were no concerns noted by them. And it'll go for vote on action on May 7th.
Any questions? This is pretty routine.
Yes, it is.
All right, there's been a suggestion that we put, in a second, that we put this on consent agenda. Do we vote to move it to consent agenda, Denise, or can we just agree? It's consent? So we agree? Okay. If anybody has any questions that we need to, then move this to consent agenda. Unless public comments bring up something that we need to know about. I don't think that it will. All right. Virginia Preschool Initiative Curriculum Adoption. This is very exciting.
Yes, it is. Hello, everyone. My name is Tish Farrow, and I wear a couple of hats for Lynchburg City Schools. I'm Supervisor of Special Education, and this year I got the privilege to serve as VPI Coordinator as well. First of all, I'd like to say that who you have in front of you, her name is Fanny, and Fanny represents Sweet Frog.
I was looking around
Fanny flew in yesterday, and she does not have a round trip ticket. She has a one-flight ticket, so she's to stay. So I hope you all adopt Sweet Frog, and here's why, okay? So in response to the 2018 General Assembly, the Virginia Department of Education created a plan to ensure high-quality instruction in all Virginia Preschool Initiative classrooms. The VPI program serves nearly 18,000 at-risk children across 1,300 classrooms, and the plan ensures VPI provides a high-quality preschool experience that helps prepare each 4-year-old served for kindergarten. Lynchburg City Schools currently serves 240 VPI students. The plan aggregates lessons learned from the JLARC study, Virginia Preschool Initiative Plus implementation, and University of Virginia Center for Advanced Study of Teaching and Learning. As requested by the General Assembly, the plan covers the areas of curriculum, teacher-child interactions, and professional development. Although local school divisions aren't required to use a VDOE-vetted evidence-based curriculum until 2021, Lynchburg City Schools is proceeding with adoption and implementation for 2019-2020. As a result, the Lynchburg City Schools VPI Curriculum Review Team was formed in February 2019. The team met with Dr. Ben Copeland, and with his direction, we were given permission to be aggressive so that we could move forward. The review team consists of the following: a VPI teacher, a VPI principal, supervisor of special education, supervisor of curriculum and instruction, and supervisor of student services. The VPI curriculum review team established criteria for curriculum selection, The team ensured that the criteria aligned with the following: the VDO plan to ensure high-quality instruction, the Virginia Foundation Blocks of Learning, and the Lynchburg City Schools VPI Continuous Improvement Plan. Other criteria for consideration were student growth, development, and success. A curriculum evaluation rubric was then used for curriculum selection. The VPI Curriculum Review Team met February 22nd, 2019 to review all 6 VDOE vetted curricula. The curriculum evaluation rubric was used for scoring. And on March the 14th, the VPI Curriculum Review Team met with sales representatives from both curriculum companies. Each company gave an hour-and-a-half presentation sharing tools, resources, professional development needs, and answered questions deemed necessary from the review team. The VPI review team members completed the evaluation rubric for both presentations, and on March the 15th, all VPI classrooms received a sample of the top 2 curriculum to review. In addition, all VPI pre-K teachers received an anonymous online survey to complete. The online survey allowed each pre-K teacher the platform to choose her curriculum of choice while also providing reasons for her selection. In addition, the survey provided a snapshot of quantitative data to validate the qualitative data provided in the scoring rubric. Results from the VPI Curriculum Review Team, evaluation rubric, and the VPI Pre-K Teacher Online Survey generated the Lynchburg City Schools VPI curriculum recommendation. With the majority vote, I'm very happy to say that 100% of all VPI teachers participated in the online survey, and 100% of the teachers chose Frog Street to be the curriculum that they want to adopt. I also wanted to share with you one of the comments, and I chose this one because it aligned with feedback that addressed all of the feedback and comments that was provided by the pre-K teachers. The takeaway is that this curriculum has it all. It's evidence-based, provides parent involvement, has what's needed for English language learners, assessments, and matches the foundation blocks. So I'm hoping that you all will vote in favor of this as well. I can also provide you a copy of the curriculum and leave it here for you to review. And I'd also like to point out that one thing that the teachers liked is the correlation between the Virginia Foundation Blocks for Early Learning and Frog Street. It also focused on the pre-K correlation to the pre-K classroom assessment scoring system, which again, part of the VDO plan was to focus on teacher-child interactions. The class, which is the class assessment scoring system, is something that Virginia Department of Education is requiring that all pre-K classrooms be observed by a reliable observed scorer at least twice a year. And we're in the process of providing training for teachers, for our reliable scores. And also the professional development is, I have to say, it's top-notch with Frog Street as well, which is very important. And we also have buy-in. So if we're looking at kindergarten readiness, which is what DOE is expecting, and if we're looking at implementing and ensuring that our Lynchburg City Schools VPI program is monitored and run with fidelity, then Frog Street provides us with the necessary tools to do that.
If I can add something about the professionalism of this team, we knew that we needed to get this to you in April so you can approve it in May so we can roll out professional development and kick this off in August. We sat down at the beginning of February and said, okay, here's our end goal in mind, and we laid out a timeline, and they met every objective at every time. They developed the rubric, they down selected from 6 to 2, they got 100% buy-in from every pre-K teacher in the division, and that's the first time that I think we have had everybody say that is the curriculum that we need for our pre-K students. So I want to commend them for the work that they did to get to this point right now tonight.
Dr. Brennan.
Sure, thank you very much for that nice presentation. Thank you for bringing your friend. I think he's going to add a lot to our discussion here tonight as far as the board goes. So thank you for bringing that.
Great.
Two quick questions. One, who are the 240 students that participate in VPI?
Okay.
And I know that you've been very much involved in the universal pre-K in the community and trying to align curriculum with other entities. Will this also impact that effort?
Well, the 240 students represent the students who applied for the PI as far as the application process last year. So those 240 students that I'm referring to, they went through the application process that's required by the Department of Education. As far as our stakeholders, our community stakeholders.
Right, looking at the curriculum that you're developing and working on, is that also to be shared at some point, or your initiative that you're working on for working with other pre-K programs like Head Start to try to have their curriculum be similar to Lynchburg City Schools?
Yes. Matter of fact, we have been meeting with Head Start, and they're part of the conversation as well. But independently, each of the school divisions in the region are going through their own adoption process, but we're all using we're going through the 6 vetted curriculum that DOE is suggesting, but Head Start is part of the conversation. We have a VPI steering committee now, which is something we never had before. We have between 18 and 19 community stakeholders who attend the meeting, and we get feedback from them as well. And the director of Head Start, Dorothy, is a part of that conversation as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Dr. Gupta?
I just wanted to commend Ms. Farrow. You know, I've seen her. When you talk about Goal 2, she's a real example of LCS hires employees who are committed to excellence in education. And I've seen you real life educating my daughter. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Dr. Millis?
The last paragraph says LCS will apply for $60,000 to purchase. It sounds like it's not a guarantee. I'm not quite sure what this means. We're going to apply for it. What if we don't get it?
We're requesting that money
from.
Mr. Beckles?
This is for us.
For us.
Okay, I wasn't sure who were.
Yes.
We were applying to ourselves by the way the
Yeah.
sentence is written.
Oh, I thought we were applying for a grant. I'm glad you asked that, because I
Well,
didn't realize that this was for us.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we built this into, we value our pre-K programs.
Dr. Coleman?
Okay.
Thank you for what you presented. And the kindergarten readiness, I get that, and the pre-K work and all of the work that Mrs. Brennan is doing and all of that. But quick question, I just want to philosophically understand. I see where in paragraph 3 you mention the individuals on the committee. Dr. Copeland has allowed us to know the wonderful harmony that has taken place in coming up with that. I applaud all of that. I'm just wanting to understand, when we're sitting down as a division to develop curriculum, some of them may be mandated by VDOE and other pieces in terms of the vetting process, the inclusion of employers or entrepreneurs in taking a peek at how we develop curriculum, the division's position on that in terms of that type of partnership going forward, starting at the earliest level and working all the way through, so that you have that joint effort in determining what type of curriculum we have going forward. What is our position on that? Because once again, I'm sensing, at least from my limited perspective, that unless these individuals have that type of background, foresight, etc., that is not being necessarily considered.
So, Dr. Coleman, the Virginia Department of Education has said you need to have a curriculum for pre-K.
Yes.
In addition to saying you need to have one, they provided 6 recommended curriculums for you to choose from.
Yes, sir.
We've just gone through the process, a very fast process, to get from 6 to 2 to 1, so that we can roll out for the next school year a curriculum that has been vetted by the Virginia Department of Education, has been reviewed by the experts in Lynchburg City Schools, has been reviewed by the teachers that teach our kids every day, and they are all telling us that this is a curriculum that we think is beneficial to Lynchburg City Schools. I would like for you to define for us what this expectation is so that we can try to meet that. Because I've heard it a couple of times, and I don't know that I grasp what we expect our business community or entrepreneurs to provide us related to a pre-K curriculum, which is really a very specialized curriculum. We're talking about 4-year-olds that are learning the basics of education and going through the beginning of socialization.
Thank you, Dr. Copeland. Madam Chair, I will make the appropriate steps to meet with the appropriate people to talk about that. Thank you for getting to the answer of my question towards the end of your presentation, and I'll find a way to do it that way.
So if
because
I could
it's
add
very
something?
important to include individuals going forward. I understand, and there may be state level dilemmas, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure that our curriculum embraces content that will prepare someone at that very early age right through so that they will have what they need, both soft skills and hard skills at the age appropriate level, if in fact we ought to always look at age as a means by which we deliver our curriculum. And so all I'm simply trying to say is that to leave that sector out and the end product is not fitting for what is needed going forward. It would appear to me that how we develop our curriculum from its earliest point right on through high school needs to include the input, suggestions, thoughts, reflections, so that that material is embracing those things that are needed. And so I'm crying out amongst the giants of experts that needs to be something that we need to ponder going forward, that there is the inclusion of that. And at the end of the day, public education is critical. It's the only option for most of our kids. And so I just wonder about that. And this is not any statement to anyone in this room. This is a challenge all across the country. And once again, providing education that is going to help persons succeed beyond graduation is critical in getting them there. It would appear to me that people who are ultimately going to be in place to do that can help advise us or give suggestions and input going through the steps how to do that. And to not include them, to me, is tragic.
Ms. Carter.
So how would this look different going forward? How would this look different from children that are not part of this VPI? So what's the difference?
Okay. So what the VPI is the Virginia Preschool Initiative, and it's a grant-funded Virginia Department of Education program that allows Lynchburg City Schools to have a VPI program and have 240 students in that program. So we also coordinate with Head Start as well. So Head Start has a pre-K program as well. If we have a wait list, then those students are referred to Head Start. So they're served as well. But with the VPI initiative grant, with that funding, we can only serve 240 pre-K students.
And it's an application.
It's an application process.
So what would they be getting?
Oh, I see.
What's the difference? What would it look like now versus what it has been looking like?
Right. This is our, with the help of VDOE, to give us a more structured curriculum. And part of, and Polly's here too, part of the discussion around pre-K and preschool is the balance between academics and, there's some schools of thought that say they should enter kindergarten, they should know their letters, their numbers, they should be able to read, and then play and social skills, because that's where you really start to understand, taking turns and self-responsibility, self-regulation. And all of that at the preschool level is part of a curriculum. So we in Lynchburg City have had a mix of all of that. And now through the 6 curriculums that they narrowed down to to this one curriculum has a nice balance of the rich academic parts that you need, the social skills pieces that you need, the parent piece, because again, with preschool curriculum, much of it is also setting up routines that kids are familiar with during the day and during the night, and come back during the day and during the night. So it has a huge parent involvement component, and the work that Tish done with the preschool pre-K groups and throughout the city, I know you've received a lot of input, because I get it too, in terms of what we want for our kids. So that kind of goes back to what you're saying, Dr. Coleman, in terms of where's the community voice in what we do. And I know this community is very passionate about early education, early childhood education, and we've had lots of conversations regarding, you know, what is it that we want for our children, and how much of it during the day, like how much of their day should be spent on reading, and is it reading or is it oral conversation for language development. So that's what, and I have little Fanny up here. That's what, if you're wondering what we would be doing without it. The other thing that it allows us to do is, you know, we have pre-K programs at Hutcherson. We have them at 3 of our elementary buildings. There's Head Start. There's preschool programs throughout the city. Having a set curriculum with training, which we could invite other folks to participate in, and setting a common expectation for our 4-year-olds turning 5, entering into kindergarten, and to some degree our 3-year-olds, strengthens our program. And I will say, earlier we looked at the elementary enrollment. If we have a very strong and robust early childhood education program that not only serves the kids but serves the families, that helps us retain our kindergartners and moving forward. And there's a good connection between
right, and also the VDOE plan is consistent throughout the state of Virginia. So the expectation is going to be the same for all, and it's going to be monitored with fidelity for with every classroom. So every pre-K program in the state of Virginia is going to have to adopt a vetted curriculum. They're going to have to implement class, and there will be checks and balances as well coming from the state.
So, and can I just address the other part of your question, because I'm trying to listen through the community involvement piece, and I don't want any of us to walk away and say the textbook is the curriculum. The textbook is a resource that we use, and one of many. So with regard to the programming piece and looking at, is our curriculum preparing our students for the and beyond part of it, there are many pieces that go into that, and I don't think Ed's here. But even the CTE, and there's what, 14 or 16 groups, I'm not sure, the input from that group in terms of, here are those skills that we need, here are the up-and-coming trades professions. We talk with the college professors and our technical ed folks about what kids need, what should be in our curriculum. The field trips that we try to take add another enriching experience for what should kids be experiencing in our curriculum. The service, I think we just saw the football team doing service, and we know the importance of that, is building that into our curriculum. So it goes beyond just the 8 or 9 textbooks that DOE says, here, have at it, these are the ones that you choose from. It really is creating that enriching experience. And most importantly, when you're creating new courses, and I think one of the things that we will do, if we haven't done, is when you're developing something that you like to survey and see what is the interest level of the kids. And you may have done that with the hip hop course, I believe, to get student input, community input about what's relevant, what would you like to see. So I don't want your question, I know you said we'll talk about it later, but just for the public to let you know, in my head, I'm there.
Dr. Edwards, thank you for that. That has come the closest to helping me to have an appreciation for this. The textbook itself then becomes one piece of the curriculum.
Yes.
However, that textbook is critically important. Thank you. It's an excellent report. And then some of these matters, that's why advocacy is not just local. Some of our advocacy is statewide because we have some statewide challenges as well, but that's for another discussion. But I appreciate what you shared, Dr. Edwards. Thank you for your response. And my general point to all of my questions tonight are aimed at this holistic approach to providing an educational experience to a child that leads with the hard and soft skills they need across the breadth of the curriculum so that when they get out of here, they'll land one of those great jobs that they can get and not have to miss it because they don't have those things. That's my only concern. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, that moves us on to Lynchburg City School Board Governance Policy Review.
Okay, that would be and you have on page 53 and beyond several of the policies that the Governance Policy Work Group, who met on March 11th, viewed and vetted. The first set of policies, as it's written in our agenda, are ones that may have had, the last time we might have looked at them was in 2013, so we wanted to put eyes on them again. We did not recommend any changes to those policies as written, so that first set. There were two in particular that there might have been some questions about. BBD, which is board member removal, and hopefully we won't have to ever use that one. But you should know that there is such a policy about board member removal, and questions came up during our committee because it refers you to the code and statute, and okay, you do have it. And the other one was about the voting method. So I did ask Denise to make some copies of that. The second part of the policy group here are the VSBA changes, and I kind of summarized what those changes were. Most of them are just changing a few words here or there. So not too much in this group. And then I'll turn it over to my teammates for any additional conversation and share.
Just a quick comment, because I think mine are short and sweet. The policy that Dr. Edwards referred to, board member removal from office, which is in our agenda under page 58, is that right? It just is one sentence which refers to a statute. So we have those in case people would like to look at it, but essentially it says that an appointed officer shall be removed from office only by the person or authority who appointed him unless he is sentenced for a crime as provided in another section, or is determined to be mentally incompetent as provided for in another section. So you really can only be removed by crime or incompetence, and if you are accused of that, you have to go through a process which is also described about how that has to be submitted to a court and proven. So I think we should feel reassured that there is backup in the state that we won't be removed willy-nilly. That was my only comment, I think, James.
Thank you, Dr. Brennan. I would like to bring up first, the way I'm looking at it, it says policy formulation, policy formulation, item K6, is that?
What page?
Page 64. And that is BFR, I guess. What I want to bring up is for informational purposes, Madam Chair. It would appear to me, according to paragraph 2, proposals regarding school division policies and operations may originate, and my understanding of originate means begin with, not just a board member bringing that up, but this is suggesting that a parent, a taxpayer, a professional employee, do you see, or a civic group could bring up a matter that then would have to go to you, Madam Chair, I'm assuming, in consultation with the superintendent before it is, would be brought to the board for due consideration and recommendations, or either one of our special committees. And I'm not sure if everybody is knowledgeable of that. And I just wanted to underscore that I think that that becomes one of our obligations to do educational opportunities so that the public can know that division policies can originate from a parent, a civic group, taxpayer, professional employee. That's my first matter. I want that to make sure everybody has digested that. If any comments, you can bring them up at this time. But that is our policy. All right? Everybody clear on that? Mm-hmm. So when that starts happening, understand that is within the context of policy. All right, the second matter that I would like to bring up is BB student rep. That's page 56. It says, the opinions and concerns of the students in Lynchburg City School Division are important to the Lynchburg City School Board. Therefore, the school board selects a student representative. All right? The opinions and concerns of the students. Then it goes on to read other things. Now, in these nice little folders you have, of which you have so many things, I know that you probably don't want to look at all of that as such, but in there you will find a document that says Student Advisor to the Board of Education. This is something that I picked up at NSBA, and I just simply want to suggest to us so that I can be succinct and not overtalk. Student representatives to the board are a must to have a successful school division. The underutilization of student reps is the equivalent of Duke not giving the ball to Zion Williamson in the last 1 minute and 41 seconds of their game with Michigan State. Student representatives are a huge asset in the area of advocacy with policymakers and gathering student reflections on matters of interest pertaining to the board. I would like to recommend that either we pull this or come back to it or whatever the case may be, because in this wonderful document, you will discover how at least one local school board utilizes a different type of way of doing this, wherein names are considered. It goes with at least one member of the school board. They have to write an essay. Their GPAs are usually of good order. And then once that has been determined, then the students vote on that rep. And then that person is on the board. What that person does is share some of the nice things about athletic and organizational activity, but also has an opportunity to participate in helping to collect the student opinions across the division. Also, when we go to policymakers, a policymaker will love to hear from Dr. Atul Gupta, but they would be very interested in hearing from a student rep to advocate on policies. And this board has that both in the division, meeting with local persons, as well as at the state level, etc., which is a far better utilization of student reps. And so I'm bringing this before us because I believe that our student reps have been doing a wonderful job. But I think that I found what I was looking for, and I hope that there will be consideration for this that will help bring our student reps to a whole nother level. They also go out into the community and they find scholarships to provide scholarships to their student reps as incentives and encouragement to them going forward with all of these soft skills and hard skills that they acquire. Just doing that, as Dr. Edwards said, that the educational experience is beyond the textbook, and we ought to be providing that for our students and not underutilizing what we have, but utilizing it to its fullest.
Dr. Coleman, I agree with you with what you're saying about your students. I'm not sure I agree with you about why Duke lost, but just saying. Dr. Gupta.
Could we move these two items too for consent agenda, or is it? Because we moved the first item to consent agenda.
I'm not sure what he's asking.
He wants to know if we want to move this agenda to
item number 5 and 6 also. Because all these things, I know you guys have done a thorough review of all the policies.
Yeah. I think we want to present this for approval by the board, not this proposal with the student representative. I think Dr. Coleman's bringing it up as a future topic. Right. We just want to say we've looked at these policies. We think they're appropriate. We'd like to present them to the board to vote on. I think, is that right, Dr. Edwards? That's where we stand with this
on May 7th.
Excuse me?
On May 7th. Did you want to vote? You did not suggest we're voting tonight.
I think you were
You can move it as an action item if you want.
I have some questions.
Okay.
So, do you want me to throw them out there now? All right, on page 56, it says, therefore, the school board selects a student representative, and we have one from each high school, so that's not, it should be the school board selects a student representative from each high school.
Sure, that's good.
So that one. I also had a question on page 62 about the voting method, and if we had a tiebreaker, and it says here that you are supposed to already have appointed that tiebreaker, and I don't understand, does that tiebreaker come from the board or from, could you explain that more?
Yeah, that's in the,
right.
That's the one that I think that we
And
have to code for.
this is, so this also refers to another statute in the state that talks about how that's decided. And my understanding is, and Dr. Rose helped me with this, that it's outside of the board. It's an individual that's selected outside of the board to
But that's
do that.
appointed before before
right.
Also the case, not all boards have an odd number of board members, so if we were a 6-person board, you would want to have a tiebreaker appointed.
Well, but we could have tiebreak. You could have 3 who vote no, 3 who vote yes, and 1 who says I'm abstaining from voting. So
then the motion doesn't pass. I mean, that's not,
But then it says that if the motion wouldn't pass, but if there's a tie vote on questions after complying with this procedure, then a tie vote with that clerk shall record the vote and immediately notify the tiebreaker. That's what I'm asking.
If we have one.
If you have one.
Right.
And so that person would have to be named. And
It would be appointed probably by the city council that appointed you.
That's what I'm asking. Who would appoint that?
That's how we read it, as city
Right.
council would
Do you
have
have
appointed.
that?
I do.
Yes.
This is the state policy. And I think one of the other aspects of this was that
Who has
have to have one.
Who has the copies?
You know, I think I got the whole pile, so I didn't. You want me to go ahead and pass them?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I know we made copies for everybody
I
because
want
we
you to
figured there would
share
be
it
questions
with,
about this.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
So the top piece is the board removal section we've talked about. The bottom piece is the voting method.
So what we did on this document is list the statutes that are referenced in those 2 policies that are listed on here, just so you can see it and read it.
Mm-hmm.
I have one more on page 67. It deals with school board member in-service activities, and we've had questions about this. And toward the bottom, the middle says, the school board shall retain the authority to approve or disapprove the participation of members in planned activities. And that, in practice, has been that it goes to the board chair to approve. And if it needs to come to the entire board to approve, then we're going to have to do it once a month. It's not going to be something that can come up.
Which one?
Page 67, school board member in-service activities. Denise, I think I'm right that in the past, practice has been that it goes to the school board chair to approve. And if we're going to the whole board approving or disapproving, then that means.
I'm sorry, Ms. Roy, where's that sentence? I have the policy, but where is that part? Because I didn't. Third paragraph?
Third paragraph, the
third
last
okay.
sentence.
Okay.
Sentence.
I read
So
that
cool.
differently. So.
You read it?
Well, when I saw that the school board shall retain authority to approve or disapprove, I thought it meant like I couldn't tell you yay or nay, or city council couldn't tell you yay or nay, that it was strictly up to the school board's activities are governed by the school board, not outside or administrative folks. That's how I read it originally. I see what you're saying now, though.
I think that needs clarifying.
Do you want to make a suggestion as far as to clarify that sentence? You want to say the school board chairperson? Just add that to that?
been the practice.
Yeah,
I
sure.
was gonna say, we have that in our norms and
So
protocols.
I thought we did say that in our norms.
So, I'm not sure there's a real disconnect, but we need to clarify it, so yeah.
What's the preference?
Well, I don't want to have this on the consent agenda. I want a chance to
Okay,
go over it.
spend more time.
Absolutely.
Is that
So,
okay?
I mean, if it's a no-brainer, then it's going to be an easy vote. So.
Okay, so we'll keep this chair. Ms. Carter, I'm sorry.
And you, are the policies labeled, like policy BBD?
No, not.
No,
They're
so
not.
just the form, and you all look at the form
Oh,
heading
I
to
see.
see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, like the policy isn't up here.
They're
It's
not
not
labeled.
up there.
They are in the,
Right.
I see
On
what you're
this
saying.
sheet, but it's
You
On
gotta
the
go back
agenda,
by
but
the-
they're not.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, another, I guess, point of trivia here. Do we want, I don't know if we've been adding on policies that we review but don't change. Are we adding to the bottom reviewed?
reviewed?
We
Okay.
should, yes.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay.
When it was reviewed, updated.
Yeah, yeah, okay, okay.
Ms. Carter?
I have always asked why members, or could there not be a representative from Fort Hill?
The alternatives?
Yes.
For the student rep?
Or Empowerment Academy.
Yeah.
Then we have two other.
Madam Chair, thank you. I'm grateful for Dr. Millis because I appreciate what Dr. Gupta stated, but I wouldn't want this to be on the consent agenda. And I'm just stating, going through the proper process, because the board will make the decision anyway. I want to look at or propose rewording for the work group for student, the BBBB student rep piece.
Any additional? Yes, Dr. Edwards.
So just because, this is where I misunderstand. So for some of the policies, for example, on page 56, what I heard you say was the school board selects a student representative from each high school, is the first thing that I heard someone say. So when this comes back on the agenda for, what month are we in? May. Is that wording there? Is it not there? Are we? Is someone making an add? Is someone going to add it? Because I don't think that the policy work group meets to change wording. So how are we handling wording, and what is your expectation when you get this packet back in May?
I believe that our work group is it's April the 8th.
Are we okay?
I think we're on for
So
another meeting.
April the 8th, we're gonna go because we have others, but we're gonna go back to these and you'll reword them and have the reworded policy.
That's right.
So you'll get input from everybody else about what they want.
Suggestions were for these words.
Going back to that productive struggle.
Yes, you mean specifically like for the
Two high schools, yeah. Two high schools rather than one.
Some of them don't.
Just those, there was a small number, we just get reminded what those were.
And so when it comes back to the board for clarity, is it gonna be in that new form for action?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it'll have blue
So it'll be additional.
blue language that the board members are recommending. So
And if it's still unreadiness on any one of them, it's okay because we don't have to change the world overnight. I mean, it's trying to get things to the place where we're empowering kids to be the best that they can possibly be, period.
So if you have any questions, send them in to Dr. Brennan and Dr. Coleman are the two reps on that school board reps. So, Dr. Nillis, did you have something else to add?
No.
Thank you for having this. All right, that moves us to the last item, and that was one that was added, and that involves the Community Relations and Legislative Advocacy Committee that we approved last month. The school board needs to appoint 3 members to the newly formed Community Relations and Legislative Advocacy Committee. I sent out an email asking for volunteers rather than me just appointing them. And 3 brave people stepped up and said that they would be more than willing to serve on this. My recommendations, Dr. Brennan, Dr. Coleman, and Dr. Nillis are the 3 school board reps that would make up this committee. I would also be a part of the committee as board chair. I would recommend that the school board approve the proposed members. Unless someone else wants to volunteer.
I move that the members be appointed to that.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. Thank you, Ms. Mason. Any discussion, questions? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you, gentlemen.
I did not vote.
I saw your hand go up. Don't even try it. So too big. We saw your hand go up. All right. That now brings us to the superintendent comments.
Okay. Given the hour, I will be pretty brief. Superintendent Parent Advisory and Personnel Advisory are meeting next week, so no updates from them. Most of my comments are thank yous for some of the events that have occurred, starting with the breakfast with the superintendent and just thanking the Education Foundation for all of the behind-the-scenes work that they did in putting that together, and all of the community members who came out, over 400, to have breakfast with the superintendent. It was a really great event, and I enjoyed doing it and loved having the mini-me there.
That was great.
I know, I've since visited them. They were very, very nice kids. Also, to the city council members who have been meeting either with me or with board members prior to us presenting our budget to city council. Again, I just thank them for their time, being able to meet with them and just talk about what our goals are for Lynchburg City Schools. All of the staff, I really couldn't get the full picture of who was behind me at the city council meeting, because by the time I was up there for, according to the paper, at least 90 minutes, 30 minutes talking and an hour worth of questioning, so I couldn't see, but I could feel the presence. So to my staff, to all of you, all the community members who came out, again, it's nice to have support when we are presenting all the wonderful things that we're doing for our kids. Couple quick things. I did get to go to a youth Sunday at Scott Zion Baptist Church in Amherst. Some of our kids attend that church, and I was there to celebrate with them, so that was really nice. Many of us went to University of Lynchburg to hear Dr. Ivory Tolson speak in another great event. He signed my book too, so that was nice. And I know Ms. Reeves, I think she might have left. We had copies of that, and we are using a lot of his work with the Equity Task Force moving forward. We had our job fair this past Saturday, and kudos to Marie and team for, again, organizing that, and all of my principals and food service, nutrition, facilities, transportation. Hope I didn't miss anybody. Tech, everybody who was there to greet all of our wonderful people who want to come and join our Lynchburg City family. It was a nice event, and with some very good prospective candidates to join our family. Also, just a shout out to Dunbar, Sandusky Middle, and Lincoln Middle for their 21st Century provider fair they had on Saturday, which was after the job fair. And they had it at Sandusky Elementary, a community event with a lot of the community providers here in town, and lots of food, which was just great. And they had things for kids to do too, so it was nice to spend that time with them. I'm looking forward to all of the upcoming work that we have to do as we continue to work on the strategic plan. And as I said earlier, one of the things that I'm real proud of, even though you all know my background is in STEM and robotics and all of that, and I love that we have those programs. I was also drum majorette in high school, so I have a music background. So I'm a fan of the arts, which is a nice combination, I think. And I had the opportunity to see Little Mermaid Jr. at T.C. Miller and was blown away by the performance of the kids, but more blown away, and I don't know if you noticed that the room was decorated with fish and little things, so all of the children participated in the program. Either they were doing the lighting, or they decorated the room, or they were on stage, or they had some sort of role in it. And it really shows what happens when you get a whole school behind an event like that. And it's something that I want for all of my babies, which brings me to rumor control, because this one is coming out there and you board members may have heard it as well. We have a lot of wonderful productions, and I didn't get to see Nevermore at the high school this weekend. But you all know we have a very talented theater program at both of our high schools and at Dunbar, and also at the Go Center at Payne. And now we have our elementary programs as well. One of the things that I would like to see at Payne, and we've been having conversations about this, is all that talent that we have in the Go Center. And many of those kids end up going to Dunbar and to our various high schools. We like to see more school-wide participation in our arts program. If T.C. Miller taught me anything, it's just the power of don't underestimate the kids. And every kid has a role and a function. And with Payne and Dr. Copeland and all of us have been talking, we have a wonderful program there with the Gold Center children who already do plays for that school. They can be role models to put on what I would like to see next year is a school-wide performance event. I don't know, I'm thinking something awesome, I don't know, but I just think it's a great opportunity, particularly in that building where you have a mix of populations. You have our Go Center students, you have your base students, we have special education programs and preschool programs all in one building. What a beautiful opportunity to get all of our kids involved in the theater and arts. And I know that some of my parents are concerned, so I'm talking to my Go Center parents, that we are getting rid of arts in Payne. No, we are not. We are trying to grow the arts program in our division, and we want to start at Payne and have more of the children participate and join the Go Center students who have done a phenomenal job at doing this. So that I just wanted to address that so that I would alleviate folks' concerns. But I know that where there's concerns, there's always conversation for talk. So I do believe we're trying to schedule a meeting for any Go Center parents who are concerned. We're trying to look at next week, although there might be some conflict with the violin. I think we were thinking April 10th. The violin thing might be a little conflict. But we want to be able to have conversation and hear people. And we've been talking to a couple people. So look forward to a communication about that, but start thinking about what an awesome show at Payne Elementary School next year will look like, because I think my kids are going to dazzle you, and you'll see, in addition to the wonderful things we do here, we will be known for our arts from grade pre-K up. So, and thank you.
Board comments? Dr. Brennan?
I don't want to drag this out because I know it's been a long meeting and some of us have to go back to our day job after this, so
I'm sorry.
I will keep it short. But I want to recognize the fact that Virginia Organizing has been very organized in coming to talk to us at public comments for the last several months. And there's two things I'd like to mention. One is that, and I'm probably not the best person to do that, but there is a definition of what parents can do with children in the schools. And parents are able to be with their child in the schools, whether they have a felony conviction or not, whether they're a returning citizen or not. And I just want everyone to understand that because it's brought up a couple of times. The other thing is that the whole issue of returning citizens volunteering is one that this board dealt with a year or so ago. As Dr. Coleman has pointed out, we kind of need to address what community brings to us as issues. And this is a difficult issue, but we did get sidetracked on the fact that there was a problem with our liability insurance. I know that Lynchburg City Schools is looking at that again because Dr. Edwards has pointed that out in our goalpost. I hope that we're able to look at this topic again, either in a work session or the board, to understand what the implications are currently. What are the implications for our liability insurance, and what are other school districts doing? I received this information this week. I've looked up some of these other schools, and it's true. Charlottesville does not have a restriction of people who have felonies. So there, we just need to know what the information is and try to be able to make a decision. We keep saying this board wants to make the tough decision. This is a tough decision. It's a hot topic, but I really think this board is up to addressing it and doing the right thing, whatever that is. But I think we just need the information in some format.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one of the things that I've been working on, to kind of pull together the history of where we started, the decision-making process, the meetings. They keep saying there was 8 to 1, and I was going to bring that before the board, whether in a work session next month or the board meeting. I do think we need to clarify parental involvement in schools, because we've heard several times, I can't do this and I can't do that. You can go to the school and visit with your child in the classroom. You can have lunch. You can go to graduation. You can do these things. But it is in our policy that you have to pass the background check to be a volunteer or a supervisor of their children. You can be involved with your own child. You can read. You can do all these things. And I do think we need to bring that forward so that people really understand what our policy says. Dr. Gupta?
I agree with Dr. Brennan. It's kind of not good that parents come and present board meeting after board meeting, and they're not hearing a decision from us. So, it should be done one way or the other. If we are doing it, why we are doing it. If we are not doing it, why we are not doing it. They have the right to hear.
There's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of information that is the policies. I've looked into them and what they cover in their employees, they don't cover in their volunteers. And people are not easy to access by phone, because sometimes they don't want to talk to you about what they're doing. But we're getting there. We're not just putting it on the back burner.
As Dr. Brennan said, let's bring it up as a work session item.
Ms. Mason.
I just wanted to thank Dr. Brennan for re-emphasizing, what our parents are able to do, because it always saddens me that the misinformation continues. And I think we just have to be more diligent or proactive about reminding our parents, until there is a change in the policy, that there are still many things that they're able to do. I do have one question, though. In terms of field trips, if a parent were just escorting or going to stay with their child, would that prohibit them from attending a field trip?
It does not prohibit them from attending a field trip. What it prohibits them from doing, if they don't qualify as a volunteer, is chaperoning other children. And that, for the few folks that I've talked to, I've been very clear in pointing that out, is that we want you to go on that field trip. We're not barring you from going on that field trip, but you cannot sign up as a chaperone if you have something that bars you from being designated a volunteer. You can be involved in the watchdog programs and things at the school with your child. You just can't take on mentoring other people's children. So if you guys can help us with the communication when you encounter people like that, and then I will make sure that I get out something to all the principals to remind them that we're not barring people from being involved in the schools with their children. It is just right now, the way the policy is written, there are certain things that they can't do if the background screening comes back with something.
But only with other children.
Right.
I mean, and I thank you for that clarification, because I was unsure about that, but I just feel like we are, in some instances, letting our community down by not getting that information out there. I mean, anytime you have a parent here that's brought to tears because they think that they can't go on a field trip, we're doing something wrong. I mean, and I don't think intentionally. I think we all have the best intentions, but whatever we're doing is not working. So I think we've got to try harder to be.
I will get with Ms. Babb in the morning, and we'll work with something to get out to principals.
I think that's a great idea.
So, thank you. And that certainly wasn't directed at you. I meant we, the collective we. So. Yes, we are.
Okay. Sharon?
I think we have explained that several times. We just need to continue to explain that regarding what exactly you can do and can't do, but that's been explained. You've explained that several times, and so we just need to continue to do that. I wanted to say I was able to see, go to Sandusky Elementary and looked at Mrs. Lewis. She did a science exhibit with the taxidermy animals, and they were so real, like the big bear and the fox and different things in a room. It was wonderful. And also, regarding the city of Lynchburg's budget, they launched a website that has a new budgeting tool for the public that you can play around and take away from this budget and add to a budget. So let's get on there and add to our budget. Everyone, if you want those raises, add to that budget. And it's called the Balancing Act. And they say all you have to do is hit the button and you can, so put that money into the Lynchburg City Schools. The other one is breakfast with the superintendent and the superintendent's presentation to the council. That was wonderful, just excellent job. And the Ed Foundation is a wonderful organization, so is the Partners in Education. And Lynchburg City School has a lot going for it, and just proud to be part of it.
Dr. Coleman?
I just want to acknowledge I do support Dr. Brennan's notion of having a work session. That's what I'm supporting at this time. I do want to first acknowledge that since we last met, we did have the Southern Region networking session, and I'm thankful to School Board Member Mason for her attendance in that session, and she has also been appointed to the nominating committee for the VSBA Southern Region.
I think I'm the appointee.
What did I? Yeah, you have been a. Yeah, you. What did I just say?
You said Mason. I'd be happy to hand it over to you.
Let me restate that.
It's a long night.
It's been a long night. I want to restate it. Susan Morrison has been appointed by me to the nominating committee. You know how I got Mason. All right. Now, also, I do want to echo what Dr. Edwards stated about this session here, and I'm thankful for my book. He also autographed it. But this is amazing material that has changed my life forever about bad stats versus what really makes for wholesome information. And so it just changed me. I hope everyone can appreciate that as we go forward. I participated, along with many of you, in the Mayor's Youth Council, whatever you call it, walk. And I actually made it through it. I'm so thankful for that. All right. Lastly, I would like to thank school board members Brennan and Carter for their attendance at last year's NSBA and for the fine information that you all brought back. And school board member Mason and myself, hopefully we will be continuously bringing good and powerful information back. Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing us to go. I do take that task very, very seriously, and I would not insult anyone's intention by going over all of this, but if I can just let you know what is in the packet on my behalf, Dr. Mason will be presenting hers as well. But I just think it's critical if the school division invests that much money in us going somewhere that we don't just come back and say we went and leave it at that. So I apologize for giving you this bulky piece with everything in it, but I think it's my due diligence that I would do that. All right? So I do want to let you know on the front of the two-page piece that I have here, back in front, you can really access the NSBA conference and all of the PDF files for the various presentations. I think you can go on that yourself and get that information. So if you like to do that, I have all the information here. And the headquarters is right here in Virginia, in Alexandria. I didn't know that. So we have that body right here in Virginia. We spent some time with school board member Julie Bennington, where we engaged, and you can see the sessions that I attended. Now I have 14 statements under the summary of learning. To me, each of them are critical. If you take the time to read 1 through 14, you'll be able to understand why I mentioned some of the things that I mentioned tonight. This is not just James Coleman somewhere falling off the edge of the bed somewhere and coming up with all these crazy stuff.
Let us read it.
This is, okay, all right. Now, role of the superintendent, role of the school board, effective school board members, superintendent to the board, board superintendent teams in high achieving school districts. I am just so proud of our superintendent and team because all of those things we are doing, but I think you need to see that because it's very important. I have a piece here on how to deal with negative people and keep from becoming negative yourself. The student advisor to the Board of Education, which I think is huge, and then 6 steps to extraordinary results when dealing with strategic planning. I attended that session as well. Madam Chair, that is my humble report, and I look forward to dialoguing with you all in the future over it.
Ms. Mason.
You didn't get yours.
I'm not going to duplicate Dr. Coleman's information. I will be sharing my own report because he and I both attended different sessions, and I am very grateful for the opportunity. I think professional development is essential. You get to network with colleagues, hear best practices, and it just re-energizes you and prepares you to come back and really be excited about doing the work that we need to do. So I think it was very helpful, and I will share more at our next meeting.
Thank you. Dr. Nellis?
Yeah, I just want to follow up. I actually went to the Little Mermaid Junior opening night performance.
There are feathers everywhere, I heard.
And it was really good. I mean, the kids were into it, and really the set. I mean, elementary school, but the colors. It was cool. It was really enjoyable. So
and I also went, and the playbill looked like something that I would see. Dr. Brennan and I went, and we were just blown away. So, and I also went to the Wizard of Oz at Payne, and they did a fantastic job. I'd just like to remind everybody that the Senior Honors Banquet, it will be Sunday, May 5th, and we need to apply to Dr. Edwards by April 15th. Okay. It's Sunday, May the 5th at 6 p.m. in Smith Banquet Hall. We have a work session on Tuesday, April 23rd. Next school board meetings Tuesday, May 7th, and a board session on Tuesday, May 21st. Thank you all to the staff. Yeah, let me finish.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, it's Dr. Gupta Shai, so he wanted me to point out that we both attended the Lincoln Elementary School Science Night.
Oh,
Science
good.
Night, so
I enjoyed that last year. I couldn't get there this year. Thank you. Thank you to the staff. I know it's been a very long day. We're over 12 hours, I'm sure, for most of you, and we really appreciate your being here and for all that you do for us. So thank you very much. We're adjourned.